After last week's debacle with Vladimir Zelensky coming to the United States and making a mess out of negotiations, all he had to do was sign and agree to the terms and get all the securities that he needed and that they were looking for. But instead, he threw a tantrum and became a spoiled brat looking for more money. And our president and vice president wanted nothing to do with it. So now the big question is, should we exit NATO? Let's jump into that right here on the Political Pulpit. We'll be right back.
Love and unity, and that the church would find new zeal and commitment to the mission and purpose of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
You're a liar! You're a liar!
Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart.
Well, it's that time again, ladies and gentlemen, for the Political Pulpit. I'm your host, Josh Navarrete. It's so good to be right here, right back on the program on this beautiful Monday, the beginning of March. It's the first Monday of March, and there's so much to jump into. Of course, you get the Monday blues after having a great weekend like we did. But it's a good thing to be back here on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, and of course we'll be viewed right on Only Source Network, probably by this week. So if you're there watching us, it's so good to join you all, and what a beautiful thing to be part of a great audience such as yourselves. If you are watching on one of the other platforms, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Let us get through and break through the algorithms so that we can get our message out. We are the Political Pulpit, the intersection between faith and politics. We believe that you should be able to have a biblical worldview about what happens in the world today, especially in the U.S., in the United States of America, where the political arena is heating up like never before. We have President Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and it seems like the Avengers as his cabinet members that have taken over the White House. And we just pray and believe that righteousness will prevail, and that we pray for our leaders that God keeps them safe and God keeps them righteous, and that righteousness will be in the halls of Congress, in the Senate, and in the White House. And that's all we can pray and believe God for. In the meantime, biblical events are taking place, signs of the end times, signs of God coming, wars and rumors of wars. And just as you think things have gotten even crazier, Vladimir Zelensky comes to the United States to negotiate with President Donald Trump and the United States to try to figure out a peace deal. President Trump has long said and campaigned on the fact that he believes if he was president, we would not be having the situations that we wouldn't be in war. Well, at least Vladimir and Ukraine and Russia wouldn't be in the war that they're in today, because unfortunately there is a larger, more powerful group at play, probably than we can even see or maybe even imagine, that lives on the thought and the acts of war. Lots of money to be made in war, lots of funding for what they call defense and weapons and other things. And this money all usually ends up in the wrong hands. And as DOGE got ramped up, or while the United States ramped up the Department of Economic Efficiency, or government efficiency, I'm sorry, it has stirred a lot of heads, turned a lot of heads, and made people crazy, which is crazy to me because we're getting rid of waste in our government. Yeah, like, why wouldn't you want to get rid of waste in our government? I still can't understand it. And there's a lot of jobs that were given to people that now they're losing their jobs because they're probably not working and not efficient. Any company, any good company will do and clean house and do these audits to make sure that they're spending money in all the right places. Well, that's what's happening. There was a lot of fluff, a lot of overspending that happens, and unfortunately, lives are, in the mix. Families, people that make money, that were making money in these jobs, were affected. And I totally get it. I feel for it. But they're not victim of the cleanup. They're a victim of the overspending. Let's just remember that. Well, now the talks are that we should get out of NATO. And it looks like the United States is the biggest contributor to NATO in the first place. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that was originally formed to make sure that Russia didn't overtake certain nations or land. It was to keep Russia at bay. It was in order for that, to keep order in the world. Well, now it's turned into a whole other thing. There's 32 nations in it, and the United States is completely invested. But should we be when other countries aren't putting in their fair share? Should we be part of NATO? It's almost like we're funding the whole thing of this agreement, this alliance. It's this military alliance that was established in the United States, Canada, and multiple European nations. The whole thing was to counter the Soviet Union. But now it's become a complete, one world government, one world military operation. And we're funding it for what? Why aren't the other nations? I think we're supposed to all contribute 2% of our total GDP, but the other nations aren't even doing anything close to that, if anything at all. And it's my idea, my viewpoint, why would we even contribute to that when they don't follow the rules and they want us to engage in military operations? They want us to send now our military to fight a war in Ukraine? I don't think I absolutely disagree. We're going to show you some videos in a little bit where now Zelensky is saying that our sons, our daughters will fight this war. I don't know. That to me, we need to get out. There's some key facts here I'm going to talk to you about in NATO. It's originally formed to deter the Soviet expansion, but now it's focusing on global security. Anti-terrorism operations and military cooperation. That means when you're in this agreement and everybody decides what they want to do, you have to participate. I don't think that's how it should work, because we're the ones that are contributing the most money. You can't tell the United States what to do. Just like when President Donald Trump said, don't tell us what we're going to feel. And if you listen, Zelensky is saying, you're going to feel the influence. You're going to feel the influence. That just infuriated myself and a whole lot of Americans, and this is why there's a strong call to remove the United States from NATO. Again, the U.S. pays the largest share of NATO's budget and provides major resources and forces that are NATO-led operations. This is why I think NATO, we don't need to be a part of it. I think the U.S. would be better off. One, we're in the saving money operation. It's called DOGE, Doge. We're trying to cut costs and expenses, and here's another way we can do so. So America can be focused on America First policies and take care of Americans. Americans are struggling to keep their jobs, to have jobs that are well-paying, to pay their bills, to buy groceries, to pay for gas and other expenses. We need to take care of Americans and not European nations first. So stop paying for the European nations' defense. That's what we're paying for. The U.S. covers most of all of it, so we need to reinforce American defense, American military, American infrastructure, and American ammunitions, not European nations. So as European nations fail to do this, why should we continue to support them? Why should we continue to give more money? It's like we take money from the poor. I heard it said something like we take money from the poor to give it to other nations who give it to their rich. Or we give it to other poor nations to give that money to the rich, something like that. It's so twisted, and it's not that simple. It's not that hard to figure out. It's pretty simplistic when you really think about it, and the nonsense and the money that goes out to other nations. As NATO expands U.S. military commitments, now we're committed to wars that the American people don't want anything to do with. We do not want to send American soldiers to Ukraine to fight this war. We don't. None of us do. No Americans want to do this. You only hear it from the crazy politicians on the left that are supporting Ukraine at any cost. This is not what the American people want. We voted in President Donald Trump to stop the war, not to send our military, our sons and daughters, overseas to fight this war. Europe can defend itself is another reason why we shouldn't be part of NATO, because Europe can take care of itself. Look what's already happening. When this whole issue with Zelensky throwing a tantrum in the White House, now he's on a tour with other European leadership. We'll show you a picture and a photo op that they had, standing like like they were united or something for this war against Russia. And if that's the case, then go ahead and fund it. You're on your own. We don't need to be a part of that. That's ridiculous. The mineral rights and all that stuff that we have interest in, apparently there are other places to get other minerals that we could utilize. So there's that. Europe can defend itself, and we should avoid any war with Russia. Russia, we don't want that. We do not want to get into a major war with Russia. That's why President Donald Trump says, you are playing with World War III. You are getting us closer to World War III. And I believe the elites and globalists would want nothing more than all these nations to go to war. Millions and millions of people will die. Millions and millions of soldiers will lose their lives to these wars, and people will just continue to get rich. They'll print money like crazy, and they'll fund it. They'll fund wars, and supposedly it goes into defense and missiles and military operations. But all these contractors get rich, and that money gets handed over to politicians. Let's just be honest. NATO promotes globalism. We are an America first nation. We are not a globalist nation. We want peace across the world, but we don't believe that we need to make unions across the world to do so. Every nation should be equipped and figure out how to defend itself. Make allies, but not become a globalist community of nations. That's not what we want. But NATO has shifted in that direction from a defense alliance to an interventionist force promoting globalist agendas rather than prioritizing American sovereignty. That's all. For all those reasons, maybe we don't need NATO. I think we don't. Especially if they're going to try to force the hand of America and the American military to be involved in these senseless wars that we don't need. There's arguments against leaving NATO. I don't think they're great arguments, but here's what's circulating the news cycle. It's going to weaken the Western alliances. I don't believe that's true. It says leaving NATO would undermine America's influence in Europe and weaken alliances. I don't think so. This world will always need America and the strength of America and American policies, American values. Whatever America does, whatever the U.S. does, so goes the world. So I don't think it's going to weaken any alliances just by us leaving NATO. Russia and China would gain power. That's an interesting take, because I think people are worried about Russia, China, and even North Korea. But I think that we can build a better relationship with Russia. I know the left is going to go crazy with that statement, and they're going to say Russia, Russia, Russia. And there's even this rumor circulating that Donald Trump was a Russian spy in his youth, and he was planted by the Russians. They're going to go on and on and on. There are things about Russia and Vladimir Putin that we that's just not good. We know that. There are criminal acts that need to be addressed. But in the sense of keeping world peace, you have to bring everybody to the table, as President Donald Trump has tried to do, and you continue to work towards peace. There's economic and security risk. I think the president is sold on the fact that we're going to cut costs, cut the expenditures, that we are seeing, and the government waste, to make sure that America is thriving again, healthy again, and economically secure again. So I'm not worried about that. Trade will continue as is. The tariffs are coming into place, but that's going to help American farmers when it comes to agriculture to revamp, relaunch, and expand their reach, their crops, grow more crops, and become more efficient and dependent on American soil, not other nations. I believe that it's time to consider leaving NATO. President Trump has been highly critical of NATO, as you guys know, demanding that the European nations pay their fair share. And so I don't think it's far-fetched. I think President Donald Trump is considering leaving NATO. He's talked about it before. He's threatened the U.S. to leave NATO. I absolutely agree with it. I think many, many, many Americans are starting to wake up to the fact that maybe being part of NATO is not such a good idea, especially if they're going to try to require us to participate in military operations and send our sons and daughters overseas to war. Under Trump, NATO members were pressured into boosting military budget, and that's his tough approach, and it looks like it's worked. So I think that the U.S. should exit NATO, but before we get all into that, let's rewind a little bit, and let's go back to when President Zelensky, was in the Oval Office. Some say he was ambushed. Some say he was acting like a brat. Here's a little area where he's giving photos to, I'm gonna go big screen here, to the president and the vice president. Go ahead and do side by side really quick.
1 minute. I just you to understand in what circumstances, in what situation they are, and what the attitude of Russia to our prisoners. That guys, just you before and after. And you see before and after, just you to understand. Now thousands of such guys, ladies and men, there, and that, so they don't eat, they beat them, and they, so they do a lot of bad things.
Yeah,
so
he came in knowing that we had a conversation with Vladimir Putin. He also was trying to prove a point here. He was showing before and afters of their prisoners of war, which we all know is a difficult thing. And he's basically showing the befores and afters, proving his point that Russia and Vladimir Putin are bad. Let's fast forward a little bit here. Lost audio. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I'm going to exit really quick and try again. I don't know where the audio went. Okay, anyways, well, that's strange. I'm not sure where the audio went. When audio comes back, I'm going to bring that up. But if you look at here, it says the U.S. halts Ukraine arms sales amid policy shift. President Trump has halted new weapon sales to Ukraine and is considering freezing shipments from U.S. stockpiles, signaling a significant shift in U.S. Foreign policy. So basically, that this decision comes after a contentious meeting with President Zelensky. Oops, sorry, guys, I moved that too far over. With President Zelensky, Ukraine, where future military aid was put into question. The move has sparked discussion on U.S. involvement in global conflicts, particularly with NATO and Ukraine, amidst Trump's push to end the war with Russia. So we are going to halt arms sales under President Trump. We are spending no more money on Ukrainian war. I think it's time to get tough with them. It's time to make sure that they don't take advantage of us. Many times we experienced, watching President Zelensky come to the White House on like he is the president of the United States, or like he's a king of somewhere, and he comes in his little jumpsuit and he's smiling ear to ear because he's getting billions and billions of dollars. He claims that he's only got a fraction of it, but we've also given it to him in arms sales and defensive military operations, so on and so forth. The point is that we're funding this war and funding Ukraine. So now he comes and starts a meeting with other cabinet members and other Congress and senators on the left being welcomed. I mean, we know that there's got to be something going on when it comes to this money that's getting funded over to Ukraine. There's something going on. There's something that's not right. We know that there's spending that shouldn't be done, money that just gets funneled that way and doesn't land where it needs to go. There needs to be a full comprehensive audit on every dollar spent on Ukraine to find out where every dollar is going. Take a look at this. Zelensky is attending an emergency meeting with European leaders in London. The world is starting to realize that we are done funding this war. I'm going to play. I don't think we have audio. Let's check. Oh, awesome. We do. Okay. Let's go full screen on this, and it's only like 30 seconds, but let's take a look.
Please stop moving.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
So I tell you what, you guys want to go ahead and join Zelensky, then you guys can pay for it. I don't think the United States doesn't need to pay for it anymore. There's no need for us to pay for it. There's no need for us to go that route. There's no need for us to continue to waste money and fund this war. He can go ahead and fight it out. I think President Donald Trump was absolutely correct. If he wants peace, then he'll come to the United States. He'll come back with an apology and with more humility. And I can promise you that President Trump has a better answer and has a better way. You know, he's the deal maker. He's made deals his entire life. And so I trust President Donald Trump. And we're going to continue to pray for the president and pray that he is going to do the right thing. I think Americans are happy that more Americans are approving his handling of the Ukraine and Russia war and the money that's not coming from America to Ukraine any longer. Before we continue, I want to remind you all that you can partner with the Political Pulpit by going to www.politicalpulpit.com/partner, and you can partner with us, one-time gift, or you can partner monthly with us so that you can be part of our newsletter, get all the information, all the news as we see it, read it, and obtain it. We give it to you direct. We don't change it, manipulate it, or give it a twist. It's just reported as is, and we like to make sure that you stay informed. Of course, this really helps us with the technology, getting the video out, getting the word out, being able to go live on all the platforms. We've been blessed with amazing partners that jumped in right away, and you could partner with us too. If you believe in the Political Pulpit, the intersection between faith and politics, trying to break those barriers between the two and making sure that we have a biblical worldview on all the things that's happening in this world, partner with us today. And of course, we got to love our sponsors at blinkbed.com. The only mattress certified by the American Arthritis Foundation. This mattress, I promise you, is like sleeping on a cloud. You have aches and pains, you have trouble sleeping. This has a cooling top mattress. It's very, very cool. It's like sleeping on a cloud. You wake up rested, and unfortunately, you don't want to get out of bed because it feels that good. But it's a good thing, of course, because you're sleeping really, really good. So visit BlinkBed at blinkbed.com and use promo code PULPIT24 for an exclusive 10% off. Now, getting back into all that's going on with Zelensky. He's on video literally saying American sons and daughters are going to go to war. Take a look at this nonsense.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight. Because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying, God forbid, because it's a horrible thing. The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the...
Or actually, you know what, this video is freezing. Let's just leave it as is. He's basically telling the people in that area that our sons and daughters will fight this war and they will die because of NATO. Well, guess what? Let's get out of NATO. Let's stop this nonsense. Let's stop paying money towards NATO. Let's work on American defense. Let's work on ourselves. And forget this guy. This guy drives me crazy. Like, who does he think he is? And I think that's why President Donald Trump got so heated with him. He was like, I don't think you can come in here and tell us what we're going to feel. And he literally telling the president, you're going to feel the influence. You're going to feel the influence. I don't know what he means by that. I really don't care. But he's a spoiled brat and expected to get paid billions of dollars the other day and take it home to Ukraine, and just to God knows what to do with that money. And let's not forget, people are dying on both sides. The Ukrainian people are out of people to fight in this war. They're literally arresting men, arresting people to make them fight on their front lines. I think that's the saddest thing. They got family. There's a gentleman, I mean, I don't know if you guys can find it, but there's a gentleman that was being hauled into a vehicle saying that he has a family. You guys in the control room, if you can find that video and send it to me, we'll play it. But he's basically saying, wait, somebody help me, I have a family. But they're hauling him off to war. This is the horrible things that we're experiencing in these types of wars. It says Trump's possible NATO exit announcement sparks debate. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has commented on the potential implications of invoking NATO's Article 5, suggesting that it would, let's see, I can't really see it here, suggesting that it would necessitate U.S. military involvement. Meanwhile, there is a heightened speculation about the United States potentially withdrawing from NATO, fueled by social media discussions and reports of former President Donald Trump considering significant announcement on this topic. The speculation has led to a surge in betting odds on a U.S. NATO exit and has prompted some commentators to advocate for the U.S. to leave the alliance, though this is largely based on discussions or rather than confirmed policy shifts. So do you think, this writer here says, this person on X says, do you think the U.S. should leave NATO? I think it's time. We're going to have the President Donald Trump is going to address the nation on tomorrow. And we probably, I'm going to find out if we can go live during that time. But I'd love to hear what the president's about to tell this entire nation on what's to come. So here's the president talking about the tariffs that are coming to Canada that starts tomorrow. So he's going to start tariffs tomorrow. He's going to address the nation tomorrow. What is he going to do with NATO? What is the president going to do when it comes to NATO? I hope that he threatens to leave and they shape up. Because one, we're tired of spending the money. Two, we're tired of them not spending or putting in their fair share. And then now they're trying to pressure us to get involved on a military scale, which I think is ridiculous and not going to happen. Let's jump to President Trump when it comes to the tariffs in Canada and Mexico.
But very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. In other words, you build, and this is exactly what Mr. Wei is doing, by building here. Otherwise, they'll build, if they did them in Taiwan to send them here, they'll have 25% or 30% or 50% or whatever the number may be someday. It'll go only up. But by doing it here, he has no tariff, so he's way ahead of the game. And I would just say this to people, but very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25.
He goes on to say that when you put tariffs on the other nations, it puts American jobs back in place, and American companies can develop their own products. American farmers can farm even more, get more land, and make it easier to sell more products to the nation, and making sure that our products remain in America and we consume American products. It's going to be a bit of a transition. As you all know, earlier today, that after that announcement, the markets took a hit because there is a little bit of an uneasiness when it comes to investors. But let me tell you something. It's going to get a little bit worse or more worse before it gets better. But change is never easy. And detoxing from this last 15 years of these American policymakers that had every other nation and every other company first. Now it's time to put America first. And thank God for President Donald Trump, who's putting America first and making sure that we have Americans on first in our economy, in our workplaces, education, healthcare. It has to be America first, not any other nation first, not any other products first. It has to be America first. This announcement here says that the Dow Jones is down over 675 points right now after Donald Trump announced he will be implementing the 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico tomorrow. This person says, bro, it's tanking our economy. Yeah, well, we know that it's going to hit the economy. But U.S. farmers to focus on domestic market. That means that these things here, like look what the president says to the great farmers of the United States: get ready to start making a lot of agriculture product to be sold inside of the United States. Tariffs will go on external products on April 2nd. So have fun. This is huge for our farmers. Huge. They go on to say some more about that. Everybody's talking about the farmers. I mean, we were selling farmland to China. So many regulations on our farmers, so they couldn't. I mean, we know farmers out in New Mexico that make New Mexico hatch chili. All of the regulations and the requirements just to make jalapenos. Let's not even get into the hormones that they have to inject into their crops to make sure that these, that the jalapenos are a certain size and taste a certain way. We need to get rid of all of that stuff and make sure our farmers are taken care of and that they can sell domestically. We've gotten so far away from that we import a lot of stuff and we drug up a lot of with pesticides and all the other things. We're not even eating real food sometimes. It's time to get back to the way things used to be and the way America was meant to be. Before we end, I want to go to, let me see if I can pull up this, let's see here. It's the video that, Des, where did you put that video? Wonderful, it's on text. It's okay, let me pull it up. It's the video that I was talking about where... This is the video I'm talking about. This is so sad.
How the Trump-Zelensky meeting should have gone.
Supposedly, he is the one, he was taken from, I guess he didn't want to go to the war, and apparently they're really hurting to get to war. I should say it this way. They're running out of military men to fight in this war, and they're forcing people into this war from Ukraine. They have a personnel problem, and so that's my point. Zelensky doesn't have any room. He doesn't have any, like the president said, you don't have any more cards. So you can't call the shots. I suggest we get out of NATO and Zelensky shapes up. But as Americans, we got to pray for our president, pray for our government, pray for our military, that God continues to just lead our nation in the right path. That's all we have time for today. We hit a 30-minute mark, 31-minute mark on our show. We're so excited because Only Source is the only source where we're going to land and be on the platform, on a beautiful platform, to get our message out even further. So make sure you go to osn.tv, fill out that form, and we're going to send you more information on where to watch this episode. YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, X, and now on Only Source TV. We are so happy to be here with you all. Remember to partner, and thank you to our partners, and thank you all for joining us. God bless.